Welp, finally did it, boys. Went to Sunday Mass today. First time ever in my life going to Mass on my own with my own will. Growing up was always kind of forced into it, mostly just holidays even, or just went to church for weddings, funerals, and baptism, etc. Not gonna lie, was almost holding tears back the entire time. It was beautiful. Thank you all for being a positive influence upon this. That is a text I received this Sunday that I saw when I came out of Mass from a brother of mine in Exodus 90, and I could not be more pleased to see that. There's really nothing like receiving the Eucharist yourself and then seeing a message like that. And last week on the Frankie D'Astoli show, we talked about this three-part formula to this upcoming Lent. The first part is that subtraction, that deduction. What are we going to take away in our life that is holding us back from Christ, whether that's social media, that's TV, that's, going out on the weekends, whatever the case might be. What are we pulling back? The second part of the formula was addition. What are we adding to our prayer life? Are we going to start praying the rosary? Are we going to start going to adoration? Are we going to start going to Mass if we're not going to Mass? What are we going to be adding to bring us closer to Christ? And then that last part is division. What is going to divide us? What is going to separate us from the life that we had before Lent to the life that we will jump into after Easter, that earning Easter mentality? And my boy here, and my Exodus brother, he went to Mass for the first time, and I couldn't be more proud of him. And he, like he said, was holding back tears. And that is that division that we are all seeking as we enter into this Lent. So very, very awesome. We are going to be talking about the addition factor today. I'm going to be giving you guys some great devotions that you could embark on as you approach this Lent, because we are literally less than a week away from Ash Wednesday, guys, and kicking off Lent here, going into the 40 days of the desert with Christ. So without further ado, welcome back to the Frankie D'Astoli Show. All right, guys, so I'm happy to be back. Honestly, after I recorded last week's episode, I went down bad with stomach bug, and the stomach bug was running through my house. It started with my daughter. I think it was Friday night. She woke up in the middle of the night, was not doing well. Shortly after that, it tackled my son, Francis, and then it moved to my wife. And I was staying strong the entire way. I was very much channeling my Saint Francis of Assisi, hugging the leper, the person with leprosy. I was like, okay, I am in the mix with my family. I need to be a strong husband, a strong father. I need to survive this sickness to take care of them. And I made it through. And then right as they recovered, I went down. And honestly, I went down the hardest. I think I was down for like 5 days. I couldn't even stomach a double espresso. And if you know me, you know how dire this situation must have been if I went 5 days without a double espresso, without a doppio. I literally have coined the term doppio deals and dogma at Rosary and Real Estate, where we drink espressos, we talk about real estate deals, and we talk about Catholic dogma. So it was bad. It was very, very bad. I was very much on the fritz. My throat was extremely sore. My stomach was just not well. Even right now, I definitely feel significantly better, but there's still kind of those lingering effects where I'm just like, man, it's lethal. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, truthfully, right? And, of course, we, forgive others. We don't want to put anything on anybody, but I wouldn't wish that on anybody, truly. So it was really rough. If you're, kind of in the Northeast area, really anywhere, I know it's going around, just try your best to stay absolutely clear of that, because it's very, very brutal. But yeah, I went down bad, but we got that episode in. And last, week, as we talked about this upcoming Lent. So I really want to present you guys 4 types of devotions that you could do during this Lent that I think is going to be very, very fruitful. Now, when we enter into this Lent, again, we need to really have a strong mindset. Mindset is so important going into Lent. We cannot kind of, half do this. We can't kind of just wake up and be like, oh, like I'm going to kind of get into this. And, I think it'll be good. And, you want to really lock in and have almost a desert wandering mindset, right? Remember, Christ was in the desert for 40 days fasting. He was tempted by the devil 3 times. This all happened before his ministry. We need that mindset. We need the mindset that we're entering into the desert. We are not going to have the typical things that we have around us, right? When you go into the desert wandering, when you're going into the wilderness, you leave behind a lot of things, right? And this is huge in Exodus 90. We talk about this is why we cut off so many things, such as TV and sweets and, all that other stuff. But you want to enter into that mindset of, I am going to, really cut myself off from the world in a sense. Now, obviously, there's going to be things that you can't cut yourself off of. You have your family, you have work, you have these things. but how do we really have a mindset that we're going to channel, being a different Christian in these 40 days? And as you enter into that, you're going to need things to lean on, because it's not just about cutting things off, but it's about adding and padding the armor, right? We need to put on the armor of Christ. And as we enter into the desert with this mindset, we want a more of a suffering mindset. And these 4 devotions that I'm going to present to you guys, not all of them are totally suffering based, but 2 of them definitely are. 3 of them I would probably say are, and then one of them, it's not necessarily suffering based, but you can kind of go in there with a little bit more of a suffering mindset, understanding and walking with Christ. So the very first one that we're going to talk about, is going to be the lightest one out of the 4, is just going to adoration hour more. Now, I have met with a lot of people that have fallen away from the faith, or even not necessarily fallen away, but maybe just didn't even know much about it. They didn't really grow up with a family that raised them in the faith. So they're kind of feeling this out. It's really new to them. They're kind of like, listen, like, I believe in God. I know that he's there. I definitely, feel that he exists, but like, I don't really know who he is. I've heard of Christ. I definitely kind of feel like I'm a Christian. Like, my parents were Christian, but I'm not really sure like what's up. And everything that I always recommend to people is, I don't say exactly like we talked about in the very, very intro of this. I wouldn't say to somebody, go to mass, go to a Catholic mass, even though you don't even know much about Christ, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily lead with that, because I think going to a Catholic mass is a big step for a lot of people that have absolutely no intro or very minimal intro to Catholicism or Christianity. So what I usually would tell people, and what I have told people, and I think is really fruitful, is go to adoration hour. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't even know what adoration hour is, basically adoration hour is something that Catholic churches hold, where you could go into, it's usually a chapel attached to the church or off on the side of the church. Sometimes it's in the actual church as well, and they hold adoration there, but most of the time it's in a separate chapel. And Jesus Christ is present in the Holy Eucharist. And that Holy Eucharist is at the very, very front of the room in the altar, and it's just a quiet chapel. You literally just go in there and you just spend time in prayer, and it's a great opportunity for you to really just sit in silence and welcome a conversation with God. And I think that's so critical for people that are really kind of just starting out with their journey here and trying to understand what does this relationship look like. And when you just kind of slow things down and you think about it in the sense of, especially for someone who's not a practicing Catholic or even a practicing Christian, it's like you go your whole day and you don't spend any time in prayer, and then it's like, oh, you go to this adoration chapel, it's totally silent, and even if you sit there just for 10 minutes, you realize like, wow, look at how good I feel after 10 minutes of just silent prayer. And I can think on a personal story. I remember a good buddy of mine that I went to college with. We sat down in January of 2025, so a little over a year ago at this point, and it was a similar conversation. It was just like, hey, like, I feel like I'm missing the faith piece of my life. And we got dinner. He was kind of like, I would love to sit down and talk to you about this. So we got dinner. Before we went to dinner, I brought him to Adoration Chapel, and we just sat there for 20 minutes. I prayed a rosary. While I was praying my rosary, he was just sitting there. And when we got out, he looked like a different person. He was like, I can't tell you the last time that I went 20 minutes just in silence. And that opened up a phenomenal door for him. Now he's definitely walking down the path of Christianity, which is really awesome. He met a great Christian girl as well. Not gonna lie, I'm still trying to get him over Catholic a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm swaying him a little. I got to meet him with him at the end of this month, so I'm working on it. But overall, I'm just very, very happy with his arching journey in that regard. But just in general, even for us practicing Catholics, as we're getting into Lent here, I think it's so important for us to, if you're going to pick up a devotion this Lent, one of those that, the 4 that I'm going to present to you today is adoration, just getting in the chapel, even if it's just once a week. Get in the chapel once a week for 20, 30 minutes and spend time in the presence of the Holy Eucharist, and really spend time in silence, right? There should be silence and suffering in this, Lent period, in these 40 days. We're in the wilderness. We're not at a concert, right? We're in the wilderness. In the wilderness, there's silence, there's peace. We want to find that inner peace. We want to really look inward and try to grow our relationship with Christ. A few things that I would do if you're going to commit to the adoration once a week, let's just call it, for the Lent period, for these 40 days roughly. Couple things that I would say is, go in there very, relaxed and and not closed-minded, excuse me, kind of cleansed, right? Don't bring your phone in, or if you bring your phone in, put it on do not disturb, or turn it off, and go in with a little bit of a game plan. You don't always have to go in with an exact regimented plan of things that you plan on doing in adoration, but you don't want it to kind of become just repetitive, right? The first time might feel really good, the second time might feel good, and then you're kind of in the dog days of Lent. You're in week 3, you're in week 4, you're in week 5, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm just kind of showing up. So you want to try to have a little bit of a routine going into adoration. I'm a big rosary guy. Everybody knows that, pray the rosary, buy real estate. So we say out rosary and real estate, obviously. But I'm big in, going in there and doing a contemplative rosary. A contemplative rosary is a little bit different. You're really taking time and meditating on each mystery. You're maybe bringing some sacred art with you and you're looking at that art. You're including certain words in the Hail Mary for each particular mystery. A really good book, just looking at my bookshelf here, a really good book, The Contemplative Rosary. I read that earlier this year. That was good. It really kind of retoured my gears for my rosary as well. Some other things, bring some of maybe your favorite saints' work to read a little bit, right? And there's specific books on the Eucharist and adoration that are built for adoration. You could look into those as well. But I have a really good one called Sermons in a Sentence. It's all little kind of tidbits from sermons from Saint Padre Pio, one of my favorite saints. And I bring that to adoration with me a lot. And I'll just flip through some things in that book. It has kind of different little, not necessarily chapters, but they're more so little sections, and they actually are based off the rosary. So it actually works really nice because I get to kind of look at the rosary while I'm praying it. I could use some of those things, but just for instance, let's just say the first, one that's on there is like patience. Maybe there's different things in, that Padre Pio has said over, his time of being a priest and doing all of those things that, could very much relate to patience. So that's a good one that I would say too. But if you're going to do the adoration, which I highly recommend, create a regimen for it. Don't just say, I'm going to get there, at some point during the week. Say, okay, I'm going to go Monday at 7 p.m. I'm going to go to adoration, and here's my plan. That's what I'm going to be bringing in. So the next one that I'm going to talk about is my personal favorite. It's the one that I actually did last Lent. It is the Seven Sorrows Rosary. So there is a rosary. I have mine here from Roman Catholic Gear. Roman Catholic Gear is a sponsor of mine. They're, I think, the sponsor for today also, which we'll talk about shortly. But I get all of my rosaries from Roman Catholic Gear. Now, sadly, as much as I love Roman Catholic Gear, I looked on their site before making this pod, and I don't see that they're actually selling these beads this year, which is so sad because this is really, really awesome. And in the interim, when I'm not using it, which is anytime during, anything that, excuse me, it's just banged against my table there. Anything that, and that's totally fine because these Roman Catholic Gear rosaries are extremely durable. They're the most durable rosary of all time. So if you bang it against your table or your child pulls at it, or for some crazy reason it flies out of your hands, falls into the street and gets run over by a car, I don't want to say with absolute certainty and guarantee, but I could say with a high almost guarantee it's going to be all right. So, but anyway, when I don't use this, I put it on my St. Michael trophy behind me, and it looks really, really cool. Again, Roman Catholic Gear is very fresh, but just because they're not selling them doesn't mean you can't get them. You go on Amazon, you can go on, I'm sure, Catholic Company probably has it. House of Joppa, that's a good site. And you could probably look these up, but I very much recommend the Seven Sorrows Rosary during Lent. Now, I do combo it with my typical rosary, so I will say my rosary during Lent, and then I'll combo it. So it does make for a little bit of extensive prayer time. But again, we're adding, right? I'm not trying to subtract my typical rosary, but I would highly recommend doing this. And I'm going to go through the seven sorrows in order of the sorrowful mystery. I'm also, or excuse me, not the sorrowful mysteries, the sorrowful rosary. And I'm also going to put in the show notes a YouTube video, as long as I can find it after I create this podcast, a YouTube video that I used last Lent. And I would put that on and I would pray with that YouTube video every single time I was praying the sorrowful rosary, which was every single day. And it's in detail. It's close to 40 minutes. So, maybe that's a little bit too long. I'm sure you can find shorter ones, but it's very great. It's got great art for you to meditate on, and they have little reflections before each one. So here are the seven sorrows in order. The first is the prophecy of Simeon, and you could refer to Luke chapter 2, verse 34, 35, and just kind of giving some briefing and background on these. Upon presenting Jesus in the temple, Simeon prophesies that a sword will pierce Mary's soul, foretelling the suffering to come. So this is the first sorrow, right? And it's so beautiful. I'm actually just going to grab this. So just give me 1 second here. So if you're watching on the video here, I have this beautiful statue of Mary. It's the Seven Sorrows statue of Mary. It's Our Lady of Sorrows. And what's so beautiful about it, you can see on the video here, is it has her immaculate heart being pierced by the 7 swords. So it's actually, I just recently got this not too long ago, probably about a month ago. I keep it in front of me actually, so you won't see it in any of my videos typically. But it's nice to kind of look at and reflect on as you're praying your 7 sorrows. So you can find that. I got that on Etsy. I thought it was really, really nice. But I'll put Mary right here so everybody can see her in this video. But that's the first one, right? The prophecy of Simeon. So that's that first sword right there. Second sword is the flight into Egypt, right? So this is, you could refer to Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 to 21. And this is where Mary and Joseph flee into a foreign land to escape King Herod's massacre of innocents, where they want to kill all of the, boys when they're, King Herod is on the hunt for Jesus Christ. This is a sorrow, right? Just as Mary delivers Jesus, very beautiful moment. Joseph is visited in a dream saying you need to flee to Egypt. This is also a sorrow of St. Joseph as well. And this is one of the sorrows, one of the swords that pierces Mary's heart here, is that she now needs to get up and go on the run for years in Egypt. The third one, the loss of Jesus in the temple. So we know this in actually the joyful mysteries, and it's quite interesting. As you can kind of see here, there's a little bit of a reflection. When you know the joyful mysteries, which the fourth joyful mystery is the presentation, which in the presentation comes the prophecy of Simeon. So even though there's joy from Mary there, there's actually some sorrow as well because of the foretelling of what's to come for her. And then we also see that, the fifth joyful mystery is the finding of Jesus in the temple. But before that joy is another sorrow of Mary, which is the loss of Jesus in the temple. We could look at Luke's Gospel, chapter 2, verse 41 to 50 here. And we see that in that particular scenario and setting, Mary and Joseph endure 3 days of anxious searching for the 12-year-old Jesus Christ. Interestingly enough, 3 days is foreshadowing of Mary's time without Jesus on earth before he is resurrected after the passion on the cross. The fourth sorrow, the fourth sword that pierces Mary's heart here, is the meeting of Jesus and Mary on the way to the cross. I really feel like this is one of the most beautiful and touching moments that we can reflect on as Catholics. And if you've seen The Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson does a phenomenal job of depicting this. Again, I would highly recommend watching The Passion at some point during Lent. But Jesus and Mary meet on the way to the cross. This is John chapter 19, verse 17. Mary witnesses her son carrying the cross to Calvary. The fifth sorrow of Mary is the crucifixion and death of Jesus. It's John 19, verses 18 to 30. Mary stands at the foot of the cross witnessing the agonizing death of her son. Can we say many worse things for anyone to ever endure? To see their innocent child not just murdered, which is obviously extremely horrible and something that people have had to witness, but see them absolutely brutally crucified and stand below them as they breathe their last breath. The sixth, Jesus is taken down from the cross and placed into Mary's arms. This is John 19, 39 to 40. Mary receives the body of Jesus into her arms, a scene often depicted in the Pieta. Pretty sure I'm saying that right there. But that beautiful statue that maybe you have seen of our Blessed Mother just with a face of, sadness, holding Christ's body as he lays limp in her arms. And then the last one, the seventh sorrow of our Blessed Mother and the seventh sorrow of the Seven Sorrows Rosary, is the burial of Jesus Christ. That's John chapter 19, 39 to 42. Mary witnesses the burial of her son, marking the final sorrowful moment. So again, we're entering into this desert. We want to have this mindset of suffering, of sorrow, of pain. The best devotion to do, maybe not the absolute best, because we're going to have another one. We're going to have another one after the break, but a really, really good devotion to do that I highly recommend is the Seven Sorrows Rosary. And again, Roman Catholic Gear, it's my shout out to you. Get it back on your site. It's top tier. They did an unbelievable Lent package last year. I wish they were doing that again this year. But you can go and you could get it. And I highly recommend getting it. And you should include it in your prayer routine for sure. So before we get into our third and our fourth recommendation for devotion, we are going to have a quick word from our show sponsor, Roman Catholic Gear. Today's show sponsor is Roman Catholic Gear. If you are in the market for a good rosary, I cannot recommend Roman Catholic Gear enough. Their rosaries are extremely durable, well made, and my personal favorite is they mimic and replicate the World War I rosary that was issued by the US government. Can you believe that? The US government literally issued rosaries to soldiers in World War I, and you have the opportunity to pray with a rosary that replicates that. And again, attached with that is spiritual warfare, right? So you get to pray with this rosary. It's very spiritually strong. They're extremely durable. As someone who has two little kids and they're constantly pulling at them, they do not break, which is awesome. And something that's really cool is when you order through RomanCatholicGear.com, you could have your rosary delivered in this spiritual ammo kit, which also is really cool just to open up, but it makes for great decor in your office or in your home. So if you head to RomanCatholicGear.com, you could use my code Frankie10 for 10% off your order. I just love Lent. Like Lent, there's just really something about it that, although it's hard and it seems like the days that you have to fast, like they just are so much harder, right? It's like, oh, I could go a full work day and I can go till 6 o'clock sometimes and realize, oh, I didn't even eat today. And it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But it's like all of a sudden now I have to fast. It's like, oh my goodness, it's 9:30 and I'm like craving a breakfast sandwich that I never really even have, right? It's like really funny how that works. But Lent is just, it's so good. There's just so much growth that goes into there. So getting back into our devotional options. The third one, which I assume your church offers on Fridays. I could be wrong, but my assumption is that they do. I don't know if every single Catholic church does it. I know mine does. Every parish that I've been to, I'm pretty sure has. But there is the 4 stations, or excuse me, not the 4, the 14 stations of the cross devotion. The 14 stations of the cross devotion is something that, again, your church will most likely be holding on Fridays. And it's an opportunity for you to go in there and pray, meditate on the 14 stations of the cross that lead all the way from Jesus being condemned, the condemnation, all the way to the burial, right? To him being buried. And we're going to walk through those 14 right now, but this is a really good one. Again, we're kind of starting to put together some things maybe for the week or whatever that case might look like. If you maybe choose to go to adoration one day, maybe you're not necessarily going to pray the Seven Sorrows Rosary every single day. Maybe you pray your rosary every day, or maybe you pray your rosary once a week, or maybe you don't pray your rosary at all. So maybe you're going to kind of take the Seven Sorrows and you're going to take that and maybe you'll put that on, Wednesday or Thursday or Saturday is a great day to, devote to our Blessed Mother Mary. So maybe on Friday, or if you're just choosing one of these 4 things, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to do the 14 stations of the cross meditation at my church. So here are the 14 stations. And again, even if you're not going to your church and maybe you're meditating this on your own, because you don't have to go to your church to do this, you could do this even without that. I really highly recommend that you find some good Catholic art to meditate on as you're doing these meditations, whether it's for your contemplative rosary, your Seven Sorrows Rosary, whether that's going into adoration, bringing some art with you, bringing some books or some writing, things along those lines. I highly recommend that. But here are the 14 stations. Station number 1, Jesus is condemned to death. Station number 2, Jesus carries his cross. Number 3, Jesus falls for the first time. Number 4, Jesus meets his mother Mary. We talked about that in the Seven Sorrows Rosary. That's one of Mary's sorrows. Number 5, Simon of Cyrene helps carry the cross. Number 6, Veronica wipes the face of Jesus, which is so beautiful if you have a devotion to the holy face of Jesus. Number 7, Jesus falls for a second time. Number 8, Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. Number 9, Jesus falls the third time. Number 10, Jesus is stripped of his garments. 11, Jesus is nailed to the cross. Number 12, Jesus dies on the cross. Number 13, Jesus is taken down from the cross. And number 14, Jesus is laid in the tomb. So those are your 14 stations. Some structure that might come along with this. The service typically, and we're talking about kind of at your church here, will typically start with an opening prayer, followed by a reading, reflection, and then a prayer at each particular station. It often includes a responsive dialogue as well, such as, "We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world." So again, there's a lot of meditation. There's a lot of prayer. It's just a great time to block out in your week, and it's going to keep you extremely grounded during Lent. Again, Talked about the formula: subtraction, addition, division. We're talking here in regards to addition, right? What are we adding to our routine? We're adding maybe the Stations of the Cross. How does something like that help with the subtraction and help with the division? Because the formula needs to work together, right? It should be kind of building up and building upon each other. So when we have these things that we've added, the sorrowful mysteries, the sorrowful rosary, adoration, the stations, how are they helping with the things that we're subtracting? So here's how they're helping. You're going and you're seeing this meditation of the stations of the cross. You're seeing, you know, where you're walking through Christ being brutally, mocked and beaten as he's on his way to Calvary to being crucified. Do you think that's going to help you when you go to fast from social media like you committed to? Of course. Do you think it's going to help you when fasting in general is hard? Of course. Do you think it's going to help you with anything that you've included in the subtraction, the deduction part of your formula? Of course it will, right? And obviously that's the add, so that's the add in. And then it's going to help with the division because it's going to change you spiritually so that when you come out of Lent, you're going to have this new feeling of, look at what I was during Lent. I want to be more of that. So even after Lent, I'm going to find ways to commit to growing deeper in that faith, growing deeper in that, love for Christ. So that is how the formula really works to build upon each other and really, helps you become a totally different person. And the Stations of the Cross is really, really beautiful. Again, big Lent tradition. You could probably do it at your parish. I assume that they're doing it. The last and the final devotion that I'll give you guys. So I've already shouted out Roman Catholic Gear a handful of times on the pod, obviously, but they do have this on their site, which I do recommend. It's not going to be my only recommendation, but this is called Let Freedom Ring. It is a 40-day spiritual challenge. And I think a good thing to do is to pick up a challenge during Lent. Doesn't have to be the Let Freedom Ring. And the Let Freedom Ring is really good. It was written by 3 Catholic priests. And every single day, and you know what, I'll pop the book open. Why not? Wasn't intending on it. But every single day, it talks about freedom from something, right? So I just pulled open day 27, freedom from gluttony. Now, gluttony is a great one. Let's actually talk about gluttony for a second, right? Most people assume gluttony is I'm overeating, but that's not necessarily just gluttony, right? Or excuse me, the only example of gluttony is, yeah, sure, maybe you had, 5 slices of pizza when 3 or 2 even would have been enough. And that's an example of gluttony. But what other things are we gluttonous for, right? Are we gluttonous for constantly having to be praised? That's gluttony, right? It's like, my wife today said, I really like your outfit. And I was just like, cool. Like, what else do you like about me? Right. And I start pressing her. Now, obviously, if there's sometimes it's in fun, sure, whatever. But like sometimes it could be not in fun. Right. And I feel like I need that reassurance constantly. And that's a gluttonous thing of me. Right. Or maybe it's, we talked about food, but maybe it's like music. Right. Maybe you're, working and you say, hey, I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to listen to some music. And all of a sudden that music just keeps going and going. And now an hour's gone by and you haven't been working. Right. That's probably a little bit of gluttony, a little bit of sloth, maybe also. But here, again, it kind of brings you through that. There's a reading in each day. So you go through it. It's a reading. Each one's probably about, page 2 to 3 pages roughly. And then there's a checklist for every single day. So again, let's just look at day 27. Here's your checklist in this particular book. Prayer for freedom from the devil. There's a specific prayer that you do. Daily reflection and prayers. Litany of the day. There's a specific litany. Prayer rosary. So this one has a rosary already built in. If you're praying your rosary every day, cool, awesome. If that's new to you, this is definitely a way to add in a little bit more as well. Divine Mercy Chaplet. Beautiful one to do. I love doing that kind of on Easter and kind of afterwards with Easter leading up to Divine Mercy Sunday, but it's a great one to do during Lent as well. Spiritual or corporal work of mercy. Fast and abstain according to level. There's certain levels that the book has. Exercise according to a level or ability. So it brings in physical work as well, physical, things in regards to that as well. Refrain from conventional media, only 1 hour of social media. So again, if maybe one of your deductions or subtractions is to kind of get off socials a little bit during Lent, this book definitely help with that as well. And examination of conscience, which is something that I've been doing every single night. I highly recommend. And confession 1 time per week. So again, this Let Freedom Ring book by Roman Catholic Gear is a phenomenal grab. It will definitely be a big change for Lent, especially for some people that are maybe looking to try to take it a step further and really dive a little bit deeper. A few other things that I recommend. Exodus 90. Everybody knows this. I'm big on Exodus 90. It's my third year doing it. I love it. It's totally transformative, not just because you take cold showers and you drink black coffee, which I highly recommend, regardless if you're doing Exodus or not, but because there's just so much that goes into it. Now, Exodus 90 really pushes for us Exodus men to invite others in for Lent, right? Lent is the halfway mark. So basically, Exodus 90 is 90 days. Basically, at the 45-day mark is when Lent starts. So you are encouraged as brothers of Exodus, as my brother was, who we talked about in the intro today, to invite others. So if you want to join Exodus 90, even if you don't know anybody that's invited you, you could actually just download the app and you could join a fraternity locally. I personally run a virtual fraternity right now. It's myself and 9 other guys. We have a great group, and I'm sure a few of those guys are inviting in a couple more for Lent, so that's definitely a good one to do. There's one other book that I'll recommend. My wife actually bought it for me. It might have even been before we were married. I believe it's called Word on Fire. I'm pretty sure it's from Father Innocent, who's a great priest, great speaker, Franciscan friar. And it's a thin book, and it talks about, it's over 40 days, I believe it's for Lent, and it's just kind of more of shorter reflection each day. It's like a little reading and then a reflection. I'm pretty sure he actually talks about a 40-day or 21-day kind of journey that he did in the wilderness with a few other men. It's definitely a men-driven book, right? As most of these things are. Exodus 90, Left Freedom Ring, it's more so men stuff. I think what is it? It's called Fiat 90, I think is the vice versa of Exodus 90. But sorry to get a little sidetracked there. Word on Fire, I'm pretty sure it's called. I'll have to confirm that. Let me actually just see. It's on my bookshelf. Hold on. All right, good thing I confirmed. It's called Born of Fire, right? So not Word on Fire, which is Bishop Barron's program. This is Born of Fire, and it is from Father Innocent Montgomery. And this is, again, it's a thinner one. If you're looking on the video here, significantly thinner than Let Freedom Ring. But every single day is kind of just a quick, page, not even sometimes half a page reading and reflection. So if you're looking to maybe add something a little bit lighter from Let Freedom Ring and definitely lighter from like Exodus 90, where it's total life transformation, then Born of Fire by Father Innocent is a good recommendation that I have for you as well. But all that to say, those are the 4 devotions that I personally recommend you pick up at least one of them for Lent, because you got to have some addition in the formula. You got to have some addition. And the addition in most cases, guys, is what's going to lead to the division. A lot of times giving up chocolate or giving up TV is not going to lead to division. You need the addition. You need the subtraction for the suffering. You need the subtraction for the humbling, but you need the addition for the change inside, that interior change that'll lead to that division, where when you walk over that line and you earn Easter, as we talked about, you're going to be a different person. It's not going to stop there. It's not going to be, all right, we'll go back to that next Lent. We'll get back to it next Lent. It's going to be, no, my life has changed. I'm now walking closer with Christ. That's the focal point, right? One last thing I'll recommend for you guys. During this Lent, what I suggest that you do is you buy a candle. Now, why, right? Why buy a candle? Here's why I think you should buy a candle for Lent. Just as you see in the video here, I got my St. Michael candle right here. This is my prayer candle. It's my podcast candle too for today, right? I don't usually podcast with the candle on, but it's my prayer candle. Every single morning when I wake up at the 4:20 a.m. alarm, which most of you guys see if you follow me on Instagram, Frankie D'Astoli _REI. I'm up at 4:20. I go down, I get up, I take my cold shower. I go downstairs and make my double espresso over ice. I bring it upstairs, and I'm usually sitting at this desk by 4:41. I open up, my Exodus app. I listen to my Exodus reflection. I, read my Catechism of the Year, or I read the Summa Theologiae from St. Thomas Aquinas, or I do some sort of, prayer and meditation. And I light that candle. And when I look at that candle and I see how much it's gone down, it's a reminder of how much I've prayed and spent time with God. So instead of setting alarms on your phone, and sure, if you only have 10 minutes and you got to set a 10-minute alarm, by all means. But instead of setting the alarm on the phone or looking at, all right, I prayed for 10 minutes, I'm good, light a candle. Let that candle burn. And over time, over the course of Lent, you're going to say, man, how much did I get through that candle? Did I get through that entire candle? That's awesome. I prayed a good amount of time with God. I've spent a lot of time with God. has my candle barely been touched? That's a sign that I need to pray a little bit more. So that's a little summit. It's not a devotion. It's just a personal recommendation for mine. Get a prayer candle, light it as you're saying your prayers, and let it kind of be an indicator of how much you've been praying during Lent. And maybe you're going to look at it and you're going to say, I got to pray a little bit more. That candle ain't burnt much. Or you're going to look at it and be like, man, I need to order another candle. Like, that's awesome. I've been praying a lot. I've been spending a lot of time with God, and my life feels so much better. So in closing remarks, guys, pray the rosary, buy real estate. Obviously, if it's not already known, build generational wealth and spiritual poverty. If you're not a part of the free rosary and real estate community on School, I highly recommend that you join. We're going to be doing more subgroup stuff like Doppio Deals and Dogma, Saints and Cigars. And we're also going to be launching some really, really cool webinars and a few things coming up in 2026 here. So definitely join on that. Use my code at Frankie10 at Roman Catholic Gear. I know we talked about it in the show sponsor today. And I hope that you guys have a great Ash Wednesday. And I'm excited to kick off Lent with you and to walk through this journey. Stay healthy. Don't do what makes you happy. Do what makes you holy. God bless. See you guys next week.